Right, as we've said before, we need to get together, pull in the same direction and get something done. This is just a summary of the report card. It's a sort of traffic light, if you like. It doesn't look very pretty. If my grandchild came home from school with a D and a downward trend, I wouldn't be too happy about things. So that's where we're at. We need to dig our heels in, stop the slide, and start moving in the other direction. So let's start at the end, sort of working ourselves up from the front. Why do we say asset management can contribute to, in a meaningful way, to resolving some of these issues? So if we look at the definition, which is stated on the slide there from SANS 55001, it's a coordinated activity of an organisation to realise value from assets. Very simple statement. Let's unpack that a little bit. That standard is quite short. Every word in there I can tell you, as having been part of the process of establishing it. It's currently being reviewed at the moment. There'll be an update coming out in the next year or two. But nevertheless, the essence of it will stay the same. It's about best practice distilled from across the globe on what works when you try to use assets, in our case infrastructure, to realise an objective. So we don't build pipes because we love pipes or tarmac roads. It's with a view to service delivery. So an asset-intensive organisation uses assets as a key mechanism to deliver services, and naturally that is 100% what a municipality is. So from across the globe, we've got some pearls of wisdom, if you like, from the ISO. But we've got to take that and apply it to what it is that we want to achieve. South Africa, it's local government, and we have a particular operating context. So we need to take those golden threads and apply it in a way that's going to work in this particular environment. So let's unpack this statement. Coordinated activity of an organisation to realise value from assets. So we look at the coordinated activity. We're talking about integration, alignment, breaking down those silos. That means accountants, engineers, planners, risk managers, HR, performance managers, the M&E guys, all need to be on the same page. They need to hold the fort with what they're doing, deliver on what they are experts in, but they need to be shoulder to shoulder with the other guys and on the same page. That means, importantly, we need leaders. And as it was said before, not just one leader at the top, but leadership throughout the organisation, gluing the organisation together, breaking down those silos. That's that first word, coordinated activity. Coordinated. Now we have the activity, so we're talking about doing something. So we have a number of processes. There's a lot of words that I've put on there. Naturally, that's just a short summary. That is asset management practice. Often we might think it's maintenance. That's just one word in there. It's about demand management planning, risk management, performance management, long-term planning, getting a place on the horizon that we're moving towards. It's about monitoring and evaluation, accounting. It's about operations. All of these activities is asset management. Organisation. So we need an appropriate organisational structure. We need appropriate governance arrangements. People need to be clear about their role and their responsibilities in implementing those processes that I've referred to. With that, we need to realise value. So now we need to think, engage brain, and get people who are experts to make tough decisions, to make judgment calls. We need people to be competent. That means they need to have qualifications, they need to go on courses, they need industry context, and they need experience. So we need to drive that at an individual level, and then naturally at an organisational level too, the organisational competence. When it comes to assets, as we've heard, the sort of mantra, we need the right data. We need information, otherwise we're flying blind. So we need models. We need to know information around the failure modes. We need to know what is the critical stuff. Failure modes would be condition, performance, capacity, obsolescence. We need that for every single asset. We need to be clear what we mean. We need clean data so that we can aggregate this and make good decisions. And then, if we look at why have we got a national standard and why is this a global standard? We need a national coordinated program. We need collaboration. We shouldn't each be doing this our own way in each municipality, albeit with well-intended golden threads. Let's get on the same page. We have an abundance of guides, but we need one way of doing it. Then we collectively move together. We can benchmark. We can see and observe where things are going well, examine why it is, share that experience, and naturally the flip side of that as well. So what are the requirements there? We need leadership. We need willing and committed stakeholders. We need a common approach, and as we move forward collectively over the years, we then have collective learning. We all move forward together. We learn from others' mistakes, not just our own. So, packed in that little sentence there's a whole bunch of stuff that tells us if we address that in a meaningful manner, that is asset management. And these are the things that can move us forward. So, what do we need to do? We need to unpack not only what is the state of infrastructure in each of the municipalities, but what is the state of asset management practice? What is the maturity of that practice? This is not just something we're suggesting here in South Africa, but in other countries recognized as leaders, this is what is done. It's audited every year. They do self-assessments. It's externally audited. It's reported to the communities. So people can see whether the guys in charge have actually got their hands on the horns and able to steer the ship effectively. So once again, we need to start at the end. We need to look at collaboration. So we all need to get on the same page. That's within a municipality, and it's across municipalities in the province and the country. Then game is on. Otherwise, we're all firefighting, doing our best, our heart's in the right place, but we're not really getting ourselves in a way that we can confidently say we're going to make a meaningful impact. So we should have a municipal asset management maturity index. It should be a recognized measure, something along the lines of what's indicated on this slide here. You see at the bottom there's 6 different categories. Asset knowledge, that's your data. How are you going about strategic planning? Your current management practices for capital works, maintenance works, asset management planning, information systems, and then the organizational tactics around people, competence, resourcing, and so forth. We can have a standardized approach to this and all move forward. This is a journey that might be 3, 5, 7 years. In New Zealand, which is recognized as one of the countries that were leading in this practice, it took them 7, 9 years, and even then, there was about 1/3 of the municipalities that were still not there. So this is a long haul. We need stamina, but we've got to start. We need to get on the same page and then start paddling that boat. When it comes to each of the different practices, it's not really a yes or no. We do this, we don't do it. Often it's a sort of grey. We sometimes do it. I don't know what you're talking about, or we always do it. So there's a graduated scoring that needs to be applied so that we get clean data out of it. All right, so if we look at then what is the gap, what is the need, what is the solution? So we feel there's a need for a national program, a coordinated program, one that is standardized. So we incentivize good asset management practice. So if you're seen to have improved from where you are, you're able to give investors, the government if you like, or private sector, confidence that the need is real, the solution is optimized, and once the investment goes in for infrastructure, that might be a 20, 40, 60, 80-year payback, that there's confidence, that there's the asset care to protect that investment and to leverage the benefits out of it. So we need to get on to brushing up our management act collectively. And it's not one person's team, one person's responsibility, it's a team responsibility. So perhaps then such a program could be incentivized with seed funding to get you off first base, to put money where your mouth is. Here's a roadmap, let's move forward. And then for projects to be funded, for people within, working within local government to see that this is actually the way forward, this is the way that we can make. So the slide indicates our mission and objectives and so forth. So one of the things is to integrate and align practitioners. So like a football team, you've got a goalkeeper, defender, attackers, etc. So in asset management, we have engineers, accountants, planners, the risk management guys. We all need to be aligned and to be pulling in the same direction with regard to the activities. So there's how-to guides that we want to develop, and actually there are an assembly of some of these at the moment. We're also helping with some of these being generated globally. I'm actually flying out this afternoon to the Middle East to have a meeting with the Global Forum and the World Partners, where there is a collective effort to drive this practice across the globe. Naturally, we need to contribute to that, but we need to take from it and interpret it in a way that is appropriate for South Africa, but at least it's rock solid in terms of the essence of the processes and the approaches. And then lastly, to develop competency. So there's organizational competency and there's the individual competency. SOMA has been accredited by SAQA to award asset management designations, professional designations. So this was just in the last year. These are in line with a framework that's been established globally. So in the same way that you can be a professional engineer or an accountant, so you can be an asset manager at 3 different levels. So there's a career path, a recognized career path for people engaged in this activity. It's again like soccer. You have a goalkeeper, the defender, the attackers, etc. So we have CSAM, which is the integrator, across all of the different elements of that I've indicated as we sort of did a helicopter view across what is asset management. Integrates all of those things. He doesn't have to be an expert in everything, but he integrates those in a sensible and balanced manner. And we have the CPAM, the acronyms are indicated at the bottom of this slide here, the Certified Practitioner. That is then an individual that holds the fort, if you like, with a particular domain. That could be in asset accounting, it could be in the project, it could be in maintenance, it could be in risk. He's the go-to guy for that domain. CSAM pulls all of that lot together. So there's a bit of teamwork required there. Then underneath the CPAM, supporting him are technicians then that give effect to each of those domains in a very brief fashion. That is how the designations have been framed and adopted now globally. So if we were to apply that in a typical municipality, you might have the application that I've indicated in this slide here. So there's different role players. They're not necessarily at a level of seniority, they're different roles. It takes all of these guys to perform their role effectively for the whole team to be able to perform. Each of the individuals typically might, naturally, as we start with this, people are coming in sideways and coming in at various different levels, but in future, guys will typically come in from the bottom up. We might in the future have asset management degrees, diplomas. There is engagement with formal institutions to establish these things in line with these professional designations that are then globally recognized. This is a bit of a busy slide, but this is, you'll see in the top right-hand side, the GFMAM 39 subjects. So if you talk about asset management, these are the words that generically one refers to that comprise asset management practice for practitioners. And some of those things then are considered to be core subjects, then there's other subjects, and then, as we said for the CSAM, there's the integration of those. So these things have been documented, there's course material, so we can now begin to climb into this and to have it formalised and recognised. Naturally, in the local government scenario, we have physical asset management, the engineers, if you like, and we have the financial asset management, as has been indicated and discussed this morning, or touched on. And these two don't become ubiquitous, but they need to be joined at the hip, they need to be aligned, pulling in the same direction, with a common respect for the needs of each of those different elements for them to be effective and to be fed information from the one side to the other. You saw a slide of what was implemented in terms of an asset management framework in Option 2s. This is a bit more of a generic display of a similar thing, but this is what is needed to be established then in different municipalities, depending on their complexity and their size, naturally. Effectively, there will be a policy, procedures, strategy, reaching down to the asset management plans per sector, and all this will be fed by some form of electronic information system with relevant data along the lines that I indicated before. On the right-hand side, we take information there from an operational point of view. We conduct maintenance, and whilst we're doing the maintenance, we have our eye on the horizon of where or how we're going to be doing this better next year, 3 years' time, 5 years' time. We embark on that journey whilst we're doing the work today. And then naturally those chevrons there indicate how these link into other systems. We need to change. And that has got the asset management practice written on that wall there. We need significant change. We're not looking at small adjustments here. We need to smash this thing from the side. We want to make a meaningful impact here. Things are really bad. So we have asset management practice that impacts on infrastructure. That's great. We have nice roads, but really the end game naturally is service delivery and customer satisfaction. So we need to up our game collectively, the people in this room, this industry. So do we need more people? I don't know. Maybe sometimes we do. But we need people that are smart, doing things in the right way, with their knowledge, skills, experience. We need leadership, teamwork, well-structured organizations, clear roles and responsibilities, and processes, systems, and tools. It's about the quality of that asset management practice. The designations that I mentioned before, the professional designations, this slide summarizes in very high-level terms what those are. It cascades up from 2 years to 7 or 8 years. 8 years for the CSAMs, for those different roles that I mentioned before, and naturally there's CPD requirements, etc. So this scheme is running already. What I suggest is that if we could embark collectively, that's CMAM, ourselves, and no doubt other role players, and potentially with government, then engage government towards such a program, which could be along the lines that's indicated in this diagram here. We wrote a paper on this about 18 months ago that we can begin to engage. As I mentioned before, this isn't a 1 or 2 year initiative. We're looking at something here that's 5 or 10 years or something, at least. In fact, it never ends. But we've got to start it. The other thing that Simon can contribute to this is a body of knowledge. It's a little bit rudimentary at the moment. We're able to access the stuff globally, but naturally what they do in a lot of the other countries, there's some sort of golden threads there, things that we can learn, but we need our own stuff. We need the South African body of knowledge. We've got an assembly of that. We feel that there should be assessments done of all of the municipalities. This should be in some form of visible report card, if you like, from a national point of view, but for each of them there would be a roadmap, however rudimentary that might be, but a way forward to improve. And then good behaviour, organisational behaviour could be rewarded in terms of the funding that's made available for projects that then are identified through the asset management plans, and as I said before, the caring hand of asset care, the knowledge that that will be there then for those to protect those investments. It's the time for action. We've been kicking our heels for way too long. It's time for collaboration, and SOMA is stepping up and offering that hand to CMAM to try and make a meaningful difference to infrastructure management. Thank you.